So, you saw the title, and since we are days away from a, new Lord of the Rings movie, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do another a Warhammer Fantasy what-if scenario in the world of Lord of the Rings. I do plan to do, other fantasy settings. It's just that, fantasy and me don't really gel a lot. Probably because I just have a select few for fantasy that I like. But whatever. Yeah. So, as you saw, what would it be like if the Warhammer the orcs of Warhammer Fantasy came to Lord of the Rings, like the world of the Middle Earth? What if they came to Middle Earth? That's the word I'm looking for. Now, when we're talking about specifically, like I said, the Warhammer Fantasy orcs, you got to talk about which orcs are we using here, because it really depends on what leader you have leading an orc Waaagh. In these kind of scenarios, it really does. You really have to think about, because it's not the same thing over and over again. I do have to tell you guys, it's not the same kind of encounter over and over again. It's more along the lines of these orc Waahs are all different depending on the leader. So if it's Grom the Paunch, it's going to be, a very fat goblin who's kind of intelligent, and he does have some kind of battle skills, tactical skills. But let's say for lack of a better argument, let's go with the original the original badass orc of Warhammer Fantasy, and that is, of course, Grimgor Ironhide. So what would it be like if the black orc and his Waaagh showed up in Middle Earth? Now, the first thing you really have to take into account is that what are orcs going to think of Middle Earth orcs? What are Grimgor and his Waaagh going to think of Middle Earth? I can tell you what they're going to think. Grimgor and his crew are going to think, "You's not proper orky, you listen to them Yumis." That's how it's going to be, right out the gate. I don't see them looking at the orcs or the Uruk-hai or the goblins or any kind of orc group from Middle Earth and looking at them and going, "Oh yeah, you can join us." No, they're going to think they're they're gonna think immediately that they're pretty inferior. That's all it's gonna be, is that they're gonna think it's an inferior orc. They ain't going to call them orcs. They're not even going to bother calling them orcs. What they're going to call them is just a bunch of, they're going to call them not orky, because for a multitude of reasons. One, the orcs are going to be like, "Yous ain't doing a Waaagh, and you taking orders from Yumis." That right there is going to offend every orc that sees that. If Grimgor and his crew saw that, it's just going to be the biggest offense they've ever seen of a bunch of orcs. And also it's going to piss them off when they find out that they are descended from elves. They're like, "You's not even orcs. You's not spring out of the ground. You come from them pointy ears." So, yeah, those orcs are not going to be swayed to join Mordor or Isengard. There's no way Saruman or Sauron. I do believe that they would try to bring the Grimgor and his Waaagh to their side, because they would look at these orcs and be like, "We don't need fucking we don't need these assholes. We don't need the Uruk-hai or whatever. We need these big motherfuckers. These guys are gonna break down the walls of Gondor and just start killing shit." But the moment the orcs encounter the Isengard, Uruk-hai, or the orcs of Mordor, they're just going to look at him and go, axe to the face. And now Middle Earth has a big problem, and by big problem in Middle Earth, I mean everyone, including Isengard and Mordor, now have a bigger orc problem. Because the thing of it is that these guys aren't going to care about power. They're just going to be caring about fighting. And you could make the argument, Saruman or Sauron could easily manipulate the orc Waahs in, Grimgor and his Waaagh into fighting for them. Is just saying it's a big fight. Again, I have to stress, they're not going to do that, because Grimgor and his crew don't like taking orders. The only person they take orders from are the war bosses. And who's the war boss? It's Grimgor. And I'll tell you another thing, Grimgor's not going to like the idea of working for anyone. Especially if it's Saruman trying to make this. He's going to be like, you're just a human. Like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to eat you. So, now in Middle-earth, you have, a massive orc Waaagh just rampaging and charging its way through the countryside, taking whatever the fuck they, pillaging and taking whatever they want. That's the other thing, is that unlike the other, the other orcs who have control and restraint because of their masters, the orcs of Warhammer Fantasy don't have that. They don't have that kind of same level of control over them. It's more of, they're just a giant green force of nature. It's like a green tsunami with claws and fangs and axes. That's really what you're looking at in this scenario, is just a big pile of angry stupid coming at you. And in Middle-earth, they already have enough problems. Like, yeah, they already, have enough problems as it is battling Mordor and Isengard. And also Rohan kind of being, crippled at the moment at this moment with King Theoden kind of under Saruman's thumb, and Gondor, thanks Denethor, the city of Gondor is not as it would be. And the orcs are, Grimgor and the others, they're not going to care about and this might help the Fellowship more. You may be thinking, oh, they would go after the Fellowship. No, they wouldn't go after the Fellowship. They would probably just be like, they're just a bunch of small little halflings, like little ratlings. Like, why would we bother? Why would we bother with that? There's, crumpin to be made over that hill where all those humans are. So yeah, these guys are just going, Grimgor and his crew are just going to be charging around, looking for a fight, and doing whatever the fuck they want. So therein lies kind of a big issue, is that these guys, Grimgor and his crew are going to just be a natural disaster, walking, rampaging across the land, and nobody's really safe. Neither good nor evil are going to be safe from it. Now, where would I think they would probably focus their, Waaagh on? I would say Rivendell, but the elves are already, packing up their shit and going, but they can't, orcs always love a good fight with the elves. I do imagine that the elves would probably put up a good fight. I also think that they would try to find, they always, orcs really hate dwarves. So, I have no doubt in my mind that Grimgor and his crew would be, running through the charging through mountainsides, trying to find any of the dwarven kingdoms to just bust down the gate on. I would say that they would probably go to the the Misty Mountain, probably sack what's there. Now, would they go after Rohan or Gondor? Absolutely. They're the two, Rohan and Gondor have probably the biggest armies at the moment that are not under Saruman and Sauron. So, I would imagine Grimgor and his crew would probably, in no doubt in my mind, they would probably go out of their way to attack Rohan and Gondor. Probably also some of the coastal areas, too, where all the, corrupted men are. The pirates and whatnot. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you have a big enough army and can put up a good fight, you're gonna get crumped. That's really what it is that, the orcs are just gonna show up at your doorstep. They're not gonna care who you are and who you, serve or who you pledge allegiance to. They're just gonna be like, can you put up a fight? Okay. And it's just an axe to the face, or you're just your head gets punched off your shoulders in an instant. So yeah, the biggest draw of this is that the other thing is too, I think, that we need to discuss real fast is the fact that the orcs of Warhammer Fantasy are just walking tanks. They're they're twice as bigger than your normal orc in Middle-earth. Not only that, they can take a lot more punishment. They can take multiple arrows. It's not like with, you could take a slice with, so you can cut down an orc, Middle-earth orc, with just a slasher sword or just hit them in the right artery and they go down. Orcs are really hard to kill in the Warhammer Fantasy orcs are much, much harder to kill. These guys are on another level of endurance. These guys can take a serious amount of punishment and just keep going. That's the thing I think people need to understand, is that, you know, they could just rain arrows on them. Not only that, there's no, like, weapon, you know, these dwarves don't carry, you know, they don't carry, like, rifles. They don't carry, like, early rifles. It's just more arrows and axes and swords, which would be more fun, because I think the orcs prefer having an up-close fight rather than a long-range one. But still, these guys are going to take a lot of punishment. When you kill them, you're just going to have more orcs in the near future. You got to burn the bodies. So, long story short, it's gonna, if you have orcs in Middle-earth, they're gonna have a bad time. At least that's just my thought on the matter. But anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of the idea of an orc Waaagh in Warhammer Fantasy? Do you think Middle-earth could survive it? Do you think they would actually join Sauron or Saruman? Just comment below, let me know. Really curious to see what you guys have to say about this one. But yeah, other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.